I have some news for you this morning. We're all getting older. Even the 26-year-old in the back is lamenting the fact that she will no longer be 25. And she has reason to be worried because at 25, people's short-term memories slowly start to erode. So I say, welcome to the club. But then again, considering the alternatives, aging is really all we can do. Unless we could instead anti-age or pro-age or defy age, to cite some of the skincare products that we know today. This year, the last stragglers of the baby boom look in their magnifying mirrors and wonder where their jawlines went. Gen Xers are noticing furrows on their foreheads, and even millennials are plucking a few gray hairs from their temples. There are lots of wonderful things about getting older, but looking smooth and firm are not among them. But there is good news. We always like good news. Advances in the science of aging mean that nobody has to look their age anymore. Allure conducted its first national survey on aging and found that most Americans believe the ideal age is 31. That's how old Betty Davis was when she starred in The Old Maid, which is just confusing to me. According to the Allure Aging Survey, 78% of respondents said they believe women are under greater pressure today than they were 10 years ago to look younger. And half of all women reported that their biggest worry about getting older is feeling less attractive. There is a silver lining. Over 60% of the respondents claim that they look younger than their peers, which is a sign that their self-esteem is robust, if not entirely accurate. They don't do the math. The multi-billion-dollar anti-aging industry has grown 19% in the past 5 years, and it's projected to expand in the years to come. Though it's still in its infancy, it has transformed our culture nearly as radically as the rise in social media. People can now choose how they want to look as they age. And this has been a source of a lot of happiness and a lot of hand-wringing. Here to discuss the topic
Daughter
are...
still dancing?
What's that? Was that something? I don't know. All right, here to discuss the topic are Brooke Shields and Dr. Tina Alster. Brooke Shields has worked longer than anyone else simply because she started when she was 11 months old as the Ivory Snow baby. She's very young. At 9, she began her film career with the movie Alice, Sweet Alice, and went on to make Louis Malle's Pretty Baby, Blue Lagoon, and Endless Love. Besides being a best-selling author, Brooke is also a Broadway star. And on TV, Brooke was nominated for a Golden Globe Award. She won 5 People's Choice Awards. And her most recent TV role is in what I like to think of as an ode to the beauty industry. It was called Lipstick Jungle. Every day is a lipstick jungle in our lives. And Dr. Tina Alster is the founding director of the Washington Institute of Dermatologic Laser Surgery and a clinical professor of dermatology at Georgetown University Medical Center. Dr. Alster has published over 250 peer-reviewed articles, 50 book chapters, and 8 textbooks. She's won numerous awards and established a scholarship endowment for women pursuing careers in medicine at Duke University. Dr. Alster has also served as a consulting dermatologist for Lancôme. And so now let's get to some answers. We need answers. Half of all women said that their biggest fear about aging is feeling less attractive. Given that we're all growing older, if we're lucky, what can we do to feel better about it?
Are you asking me?
I can ask either of you. I will ask either of you, but you start. Why not start?
Well, you know, you're talking to somebody who sees so many women on a daily basis, and they usually wait until they need something done before they come in for prophylactic treatment. I think that if you start early, there's some things that you can do in the office and at home to prevent the signs of aging. One, and we all know in this room how important sun protection is. As a dermatologist, I must, number one, say that because that's responsible for 90% of our wrinkles and 100% of our sunspots, which we used to call aging spots. But I think that outside of sunscreen, my favorite thing to tell people to do at home is to use an antioxidant, which also protects the skin from the sun and brightens the skin. And in the office, it's never too young to get started with some polishing type of treatments, whether they they are just microdermabrasion or light chemical peels, or my favorite these days is the fractionated lasers, in order to enhance new collagen formation and replace some of the old damage that's there. So at any age, you can consider any of the things that I mentioned.
So from a non-medical point of view, Brooke, what do you think is, what can women do, yeah, right? What can women do to feel more attractive?
You know, it's sort of, it's a very difficult thing to sort of say, and when we were listening earlier, to sort of balance is always the thing that I feel is the most important. And I'm torn because I was always the youngest. So I was always the youngest person in the room. I was always the youngest model or the young, and that is no longer the case.
How does that happen?
But I think it's a matter of making decisions for yourself and not apologizing for them. So if it's, you know, if you go through, yes, I think it's the sun damage. I mean, I just got something literally cut off my face. And you know, my face was the thing that was always the focus for so long. And it was a really interesting moment for me to say, oh, now I have a scar on my face. And it took a lot of sort of, you know, acclimating myself to say like, well, that's because I'm trying to teach my kids, don't go in the sun. I think you have to be balanced in how you feel. I've noticed that when I'm heavier, I look younger. I don't know who it said at a certain point you have to pick your ass or your face. I don't know. But anyway, so I go back and forth. So I think that I'm not against any of what's out there if it can make you feel better about yourself. Whether it's any of the, I mean, I've had the Fraxel, I've tried it to a certain extent, a lot of it. My problem is my face has been around for so long that if it changes dramatically, if all of a sudden I'm talking like this, then people are going to know, you know, so I can't get away with, I have to resort to a lot of like exercise and diet and drinking less and possibly being okay with being a little bit heavier rather than when I'm in my skinny phase, I look older. And I think it's a matter of just being really honest and also being okay with it. My mom had a facelift when she was really young. I mean, it's sort of in her, I think it was late 30s, early 40s. Oh, wow. And she didn't wait until it was too late, until she was, and the odd thing about it was, even at 78, she looked so much younger, but it was because she had it when she was like in her 40s. And that's also a different message too. You're sort of saying like, well, is that a good thing? And yet, I think you just have to be educated, be willing to be balanced, and admit that, you know, don't pretend you're doing something that you're not. Like if you want to get something done, get it done and wear it with pride.
Right.
If you don't want to do that, if you just want to do the research and all the use different beauty products, you have to put as much time into it and really commit to it on a whole lifestyle, I think.
But there's so much lying about what people do, particularly among celebrities. Not you, but you know.
No, because you don't. It's you know, it's like being when you become a mom. You all of a sudden you're supposed to be like gloriously happy and you're supposed to gaze down at your child, and it's hard and it's not, you know. But you're so afraid to say like, I don't like my kid, you know, all the time. But it's because we're so afraid of not being perfect.
Right.
And yet I've seen plastic surgery change people's perception of themselves and give them such a level of confidence. I've seen people that wear all their wrinkles with such pride, and you know, I think it's hard to be honest about who you are. Mm-hmm. And I'm struggling because now I'm 47, and again, I'm looking at my face, I'm thinking, well, I still think that I'm supposed to look like I did when I was on the covers. Right. And you know, I still in my brain think that I'm somewhere between, you know, 28 and 36. Right. and I did try to lie to my children, and then my husband sort of called me out on it. He's like, your mom's not 39. I was like, I am too. But I think that there is a lot of lying, and I think we have to embrace all of it. Like, just tell the truth, and if it makes you feel better about yourself, whatever the capacity, I think that's the next level of aging, is being honest.
Right, because we're not there yet. So now, how are science and beauty connected in the field of anti-aging? And I can talk, obviously, that's a question for Dr. Alster.
Well, there's just so much that we can do. Brooke alluded to the fact that it's probably better, and I try to tell my patients, better to do a bunch of small things than wait until you're old, saggy, and everybody knows you had a procedure done. And I can't tell you, it's still half and half. All my aging baby boomers that come in are either in one of two camps. Either they've been doing a lot of small things for a long time and never admit to it because they don't have to. Or the other ones say, I'm just going to wait till I get really old and saggy and then have a facelift. Like, one facelift is going to cure 50, 60, 70 years of ill. So I think that obviously we all know in this room that if you look good, you feel good. And I see that happen time and again with my patients. They come in, they may think they're coming in for a little bit of Botox, but after I'm done with them, I convince them, and for their good, that, you know, if they're only focusing on this, that's really not what everybody else is focusing on. They may be focusing on their prominent nasolabial folds or their saggy neck or the fact, quite frankly, their dirty fabric, their skin. You know, a lot of times people think, oh, I'm just going to get a facelift. That's like reupholstering your sofa in dirty fabric, because you have all these sunspots, you'll still have all your wrinkles. So you really have to improve the fabric, your skin, before you start thinking about lifting and tucking and all those things. So it is a lifetime endeavor. I think the earlier you get this done, the better it is, because then you really may not even have to go for some of these big things, because you've been doing a bunch of small things for so long.
So what's early? Too late now, right?
Yeah, it's never too late. Never too late. You know, in Washington, we're a little bit more conservative. You and I were talking about this earlier. You know, I'll go to a cocktail reception. If I put out my hand and say, oh, hi, Linda, and you didn't acknowledge me first, I've just lost you as a patient, because nobody wants anybody to know that I am their dermatologist and that I may or may not have done something to them. And so I find that the ones that I treat earliest tend to be the ones with acne. And then the youngest generation, though, will come in a little earlier. They're more proactive than even the aging baby boomers. The aging baby boomers make all sorts of excuses about not having anything done. They want to be naturally beautiful, like somehow that's a feather in their cap, rather than saying, well, I take care of myself, and that's okay. The younger generations, however, will come in, they go, what can I do about the hair on my boyfriend's back? And he'll come in with the patient. Or, you know, I notice that my mother has these lines around her mouth. What can I do to prevent that from happening? So there's a lot more proactive nature in those younger individuals.
Thinking about the acne, I think that the science and the relationship between science and beauty, really, it's that science legitimizes some of the things that people felt were maybe in the interest of vanity. And so science kind of gives it credibility. And I also think that in the past 20 years, the science has just rocketed ahead in terms of advances in anti-aging procedures, ingredients. So it's marrying those two things together that I think is the magic combination.
I also think it's educating people. I mean, you know, I used to sit and put a tinfoil around my record and put baby oil and iodine or whatever and just sit out there. We didn't know. You know, we just thought. And you always think you look better if you've had sun. You know, so now it's, I appreciate self-tanning lotions. I appreciate all of that. But as the mother of two young girls, it's also, you have to put in that message. You have to educate them. You have to learn more about the science of it. You also have to teach them to be happy with their uniqueness. What makes every single one of them, rather than trying to look like somebody else. Because, I mean, I fell prey to that as well. You know, you'd want to look like that person, or I wish I had that. And I try to get my kids, and I even try to do it myself. I have to remind myself to celebrate what I do have and try to make the best of it in whatever that means to you. And also, you said if you look better, you feel better, and then it does the sort of kumbaya version, as if you feel better, you also look better. You know, it does. It's definitely a symbiotic relationship that we have to, you know, pay attention to.
Right. So does health equal attractive? You know, I think that one of the interesting things is, maybe in the 70s, when there was a relationship suddenly between being healthy is part of being attractive. And I think that took the sting out of the sort of pursuit of beauty in itself. And you think about those Clinique ads, and it was twice a day, and it was a toothbrush, and then there were the products, and you thought, oh yeah, that's part of a routine, but also part of healthy self-care. Do you think today health equals attractiveness?
I think to some extent it does, and it laid the foundation for all the beauty things that we do today. But I don't think health is 100%. It is a symbiotic relationship that we have, that you can be healthy inside, and certainly that makes you feel better, and therefore you will look better. But there is another aspect to it. You really also have to look the part, but particularly these days when it's a very difficult work environment, you really do have to step up to the plate look-wise. You know, it's not healthy, obviously, nor does it look attractive for you to be, 20, 50, 100 pounds overweight. Well, 20, let's forget that. 50 to 100 pounds overweight. I do agree that a little bit of extra weight does help to fill out the face and make you look more young. But I think that having the health is nice, and that's a key point of what I talk to with my patients. But they also have to pay attention to the obvious, which is you can be the healthiest person. I have a lot of runners, for instance, that come in as patients, and they look very gaunt. I said, listen, if you start running a little bit less, you won't have the knee injury, and you won't have those crevices in your face, because you're losing not only fat on your body, you're losing fat on your face. So, there's a little bit of a balance there, and I do believe that being healthy on the inside is helpful for the outside appearance, and also for your general feelings of well-being. But that's not the whole thing. I think beauty does play an important role with that, with your psyche.
Right.
I'm also would say, I think we always have associated youth with attractiveness, not health with attractiveness. And there's a psychological game that happens. When I'm doing a Broadway show and I'm skinny, in my skinny self, I'm not healthy at all. I'm eating chocolate and coffee, drinking coffee, and yet I feel fabulous because I'm skinny. Do you know what I mean? It's not, and I'm the least healthy when I'm doing a show. So again, it goes back to kind of being honest about it and saying, all right, but you can't necessarily have it both ways. Do you know what I mean? I think you have to, again, I do think that it's nice to say, if you're a healthy lifestyle, you're more attractive. But it's easier to be a healthier person when you're younger, insofar as because we think of it as youthful.
Right. And part of it's energy, but also it's something that's programmed in our DNA that what is attractive are things that, like big eyes, full lips, clear skin, are signs that you're good at procreating. You're a good mate to produce children that will be healthy. It's part of that, and it goes way back. So I think that's some of what we try to accomplish with procedures and with makeup and with skincare products, is that notion of what attractiveness is, which is connected so implicitly with beauty.
And I think it's a bit addictive too. I think what happens is, I think where people get into trouble, and I could see myself falling into that sort of place, is that, like you said, you address one thing. Well, then that's sort of taken care of, and then all you're seeing is the next thing. So if you're addressing this, then you're oh, look at that, and then all this, and then I think that we get so addicted to it, rather than sort of step back and look at what is the least amount that we can do and still live still be happy.
Right, and not get distorted or over obsessed with one part or another. In our survey. So it was so funny because the majority of people think that they look younger than their partners, younger than their high school classmates, and younger than their parents did at their age, which is delusional, unless it's not. What do you think?
Or maybe it's just the Allure reader. I mean, maybe they've been practicing all the things that you've been writing about.
This was a national survey. This was a
national survey. It wasn't just the Allure reader.
It wasn't just us, because we would have been way off the charts on
My girlfriend and I went to our 25th reunion, and we thought we looked fabulous. I mean, we literally were like, look at. A lot of it had to do with weight. A lot of it had to do with being fit, and we, those that moved out of New York or didn't live in sort of major metropolitan cities, they had a tendency to be more overweight.
Right.
And that we instantly attributed it to weight, and then who had done what to their face. But it's interesting.
And hair color too. Hair color is a big part of it. It's
big deal.
astonishing to me why anybody would have gray hair except the men. And you look great, everybody. But so is there anything we can learn from this? I mean, is there anything that we can learn from the fact that we all believe that we look younger than we are? I think that there's
like
a kind
that.
of a
That's a very
fantastic
positive thing.
marketing
Yeah.
message in that. I think that there's something to be exploited in advertising marketing, and the fact that there's something really, really positive about that, and also tapping into that notion that, hey, you look pretty great, and you look better than other people. Not to make it nasty and catty, but just to think about.
Because there's a confidence in there.
Yeah.
And my girlfriends and I talk about all the times, when we feel confident about ourselves, then we carry ourselves differently. And we do. I've seen people look so beautiful and so attractive because they're confident, they're happy, they're there, they're out in the world, and they're owning who they are. And that's a hard thing to inspire, especially in, I'm a mom of 2 kids. I'm trying to do that, but I think it's kind of great that we think we're great.
But if I can just add something, we're talking about beauty and health, and those are very important outward appearances, but I think a lot of women and men, but men have had this for a longer period of time than women, we get our confidence from what we do every day. And I know that I may not be the prettiest girl in the room, but I'm confident because I love my job. I love what I do every day. And I think that that is a turn on for other people when they're around me. It's certainly my own turn on. And that's something that for our own kids, whether they be women or boys, I have a teenage boy, that having them do something they love with their life, even outside of their outward appearance, is very important in terms of how they project the world and how they feel about themselves. Because you can feel so much better if you love what you do every day. So empowering the young women and men to do things that they like to do, in addition to the outward appearance, is very important.
It's also like you don't. It's so interesting. You made a disclaimer by saying I'm not the this, and it's an arbitrary concept. I mean, when I was 15 or so, I was labeled on Time magazine as the face of the 80s or the look of the 80s or something like that. I remember thinking it was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard, because who is it, God? Is God going like, oh, though that's the face? Like, why? And would that face now not be the face? It's sort of, there's an arbitrary quality when we say, why aren't you the prettiest in the room? Do you know, what does that mean? I think that's what happens is we're saying, oh, you have to be the prettiest, the this.
I said I may not be the prettiest.
Well,
I didn't say I wasn't the prettiest. Let's just call that one out, okay? I'll leave it up to everybody else.
Exactly, perfect. That's the point.
But
like,
I do
it's
think,
the point.
why isn't
every and maybe it's, people can look at me and say, oh, sure, yeah, I mean, she's been on there. We still have to admit that. Do you know what I mean? We still have to admit that, again, the uniqueness, the happiness in what you do, being proud of who you are, and that's a lifelong,
endeavor.
Job and endeavor. It's
Right.
not easy. You don't just decide.
Right.
And it takes parenting, it takes what we give to them in the media, it's how we talk to each other, it's what we reward people for. And
Right.
I think that it's getting much better now, but we reward them for prettiness.
Right.
And
we reward beauty.
And I think it's, and thank God that the beauty industry is what it is, because we all want the answer. And
Right.
I think it's okay to, again, just be honest about it and say, okay, that's why those products, because they're doing research and because it makes you feel better and because, you're working really hard in something you like, and then you're going to go buy that product for yourself. It works together.
Yeah, I think the more that the connection is made to health or to confidence or self-esteem or something, the more that beauty becomes a tool that women can use, no matter how they feel. If they don't feel like the prettiest person in the room, that doesn't disqualify them from being able to take advantage of whatever it is that's out there. And I think that is the interesting messaging, and I think it's true about aging too. You're not the youngest one anymore, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to be. You can't participate in being attractive or sexy or energetic or any of those other qualities that I think are really important to address, particularly in marketing and in media and all the things that we do. So you may have already answered this, but 70% of women this is almost the contrary. 70% of women in our survey connected youth to self-esteem. So, is being old lacking self-esteem? Or is that the concept that, and so many women said, well, as I get older, I'm worried about feeling less attractive.
I think it's just the opposite. I really do. I know that I feel more confident. It's not just because I do cosmetic procedures on myself and others, but I think it's because, but that does help. I do think it's a matter of, as we all age, we become more confident in, who we are as people, what we're delivering to the world, how we may or may not be helping others. And I think that I find that an intriguing statistic because I don't think that really plays out in what I see on a daily basis. I mean, I see anywhere between 25 and 35, mostly women, every day, and I hear a lot of things, a lot of personal things they don't share with other people, and I find that the people who are really happy with their jobs, they're even no matter how they look on their face, that they're still happy individuals. They're confident. They just want to stay there. They want to improve upon themselves. It's just one more improvement step for them.
I just assumed that those 70% of the people who said that were in their 20s.
Maybe.
Because they were afraid of the future. Once you get older, it's like, hey, it's not that bad. So the famous ad used to go, does she or doesn't she? And it was about hair color. And it really tapped into the stigma that existed at the time about coloring your hair being sort of a morally iffy prospect. Now, there are so many other beauty stigmas. I mean, first of all, we just talked about it, coloring your hair, or really not coloring your hair is the stigma now. Oh, wow, she's really let herself go. Or doing too much, doing something about aging, such as, getting Botox or getting injections or whatever, and then the flip side of doing too much. So there's so many pressures on so many sides. How do you think we can contend with this? Are we damned if we do and damned if we don't, in a way?
No, I think there's always a fine line, and I think it's a matter of being paired up with a physician or a provider that kind of sees the raw beauty or handsomeness in an individual, and maintaining that, maybe improving a little bit, but not changing the basic face. I always tell people, this is the money shot. This is what people are looking at, and the rest of the thing, unless you're 100 pounds or more overweight, this is less important. This is what we want to focus on first. So hair is very important. So you were talking about a reunion. I just saw my roommate from many decades ago, and she lives in San Francisco and doesn't color her hair. And she came to my office to visit me, and she looks literally 30 years older than I do. She's in great shape. And she's a very attractive woman, but her gray hair made her look really old. And I said, Janet, get your hair cut. Everybody here knows we're roommates together, and you look so much older. My staff is going to think I'm like really old. That I sent her to a hairdresser. She didn't need anything else but her hair colored. But she clearly lives in a different demographic than I. Anyway, so. Bottom line is, what were we talking about now? Hair color.
Anything you want to talk about.
Anything I want to talk about. I forgot what I was saying. It doesn't
but you know
matter.
what?
Brooke, pass it over.
It's what you can do and what's in your armamentarium, and use it. My feeling is it's all there. One of the great privileges of being right here, right now, and in this industry is that it's all there for you to use. Why not?
Well, and I like it when people come in and go, I don't know whether I should do this. I said, well, you're already here. That's half the battle. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's different if you don't have the money to pay for it. Okay, then maybe you shouldn't do it. You save your dollars and cents. But, don't ask me for permission. I mean, I'm going to tell you that if this is the right treatment for you, I'll do it for you. Don't apologize for being there.
They can call me and I'll give them permission.
You used the word privilege, and I think that's an important, and that does not just mean a monetary privilege. I think it is a privilege to be able to have so much access to everything, including the information and the products and the medical profession and the experts, and it's there, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it is a privilege that we can tap into it.
Now, I have so many other questions, but I'm being told by this little thing here that's my last question. I don't know which to do. All right, so I'm going to combine 4 questions in one. Can the beauty industry, or should the beauty industry and the media do something to diminish the stigma? Can we do, are there images? Is there messaging that we should be doing? How do we convey age in the most positive light? Because you think of this, the baby boomers spending more money on these products. It's a huge market, and as we get older, an image of a 28-year-old or a 32-year-old with a cream that's intended for women who are over 40 is sort of a disconnect. What do we do?
put older women on the pages of your magazines.
Yes.
I really, it's so insulting. I mean, I read all this and all these magazines, and I love them all. I love the fashion, I love the beauty, I love the whole thing, except for the fact that I hate seeing 20-year-olds who weigh 88 pounds in the magazines all the time. It's like, listen, if that thing looks good on her, that's great, but it's never going to look that good on me. My face as a dermatologist is never going to look like that. I just think it's not realistic. So, again, we don't want to see people who are all fat and wrinkly and spotted, but let's, really have something a little bit closer to home that more people can identify with. And there are very few magazines that do that.
Other than
But
Allure.
again, is that going to? I'm wondering if that's going to change either. I mean, it's again at my age now in Hollywood or in an industry, I'm considered older. Do you know what I mean? And in all the sort of, I either have to wait till I'm sort of in the Maggie Smith world, but I'm not 20s, but I'm not. So I think we're very kind of confused as to really what we're comfortable with admitting to. But I do fall prey to looking at all the magazines and thinking and I think, oh God, but I'm not in my 20s. So is that realistic for me? And yet, if I see a picture of myself that's not a little retouched, I also think, oh, I think I should do a little retouching. So I mean, I'm a hypocrite. I don't know. I'm trying to just
I think we're all
be honest
navigating
about
it.
it.
Yeah, we're
I always say
navigating
well, just do a little bit of that, but not too much because I want to look natural.
Right.
It's like, well, not really, because I should just let it go. But my ego takes over.
Sure.
And then I'm thinking, well, if I don't, everybody else is doing it. So the people that are my age look better because they aren't getting the retouching or whatever. So what am I proving? Feeling bad about myself.
But I think there are images that we need to all recognize and relate to and feel are positive, and that's responsibility, certainly my responsibility, and I know a lot of people's in this room. So
I think we always want to look better. I always want to look
an
better.
idealized version of reality, but it's got to have one foot in reality.
Yeah.
So I think I can take questions from the room if you are all ready to do that.
Please wait for a microphone and state your name and company before asking your question.
It's like I wonder what she looks like.
From above. Let me see your face.
Hi, I'm Mike from Bliss. First, I think you'll look fantastic.
Good, let's establish that.
We'll pay you later.
Stay here. Tina, I've got a question for you. I've heard, I don't know this for a fact, but that when men get services, not that I'm looking to get one, by the way, but when men get services, they want to look, like a guy who's 50 wants to look like he's like in early to mid 40s, but a woman who's 50 wants to look like she's 30, early to mid 30s. Do you find that in your practice, and if so, what's the insight?
Well, yes and no. I think that men don't necessarily want to look like they're that much younger, a decade younger. I think it has to be that they want to feel and look like they are old enough to have the job that they have, okay? Whereas women, because of all these magazines, they want to really go back to their 20s. But my patients don't think that way, and neither do I. I mean, I think most women will say, I'd like to have my skin like it was 10 years ago. And that's more realistic. They're not saying, oh, I want to look like I was in my 20s or 30s. I'm 53, and I'm really happy. I think that I was happiest in terms of how I looked in my 30s and 40s, but I don't necessarily want to go back to my 30s. I'd be happy to kind of go back to the way I looked in my 40s. I'd be happy if I was 20 pounds lighter, quite frankly, if I can keep my face looking like this. So, it's one of those things. I do think that men, their balance is a little bit different, and me as a healthcare deliverer, I've had to kind of take them out of my regular practice and give them a man cave of their own. In fact, I just opened Washington Institute of Dermatologic Laser Surgery for men, and it's a man cave, and it's staffed by men for men. I took myself out of the equation. And the thing is that men really are looking at things very differently than women. They're not really looking at one wrinkle. They are maybe looking at their jawline. That's a major thing for them, or they may be looking at a major growth that any woman would have seen about 20 years prior that's popping out of their head. It has to be pretty obvious for many of the guys that are coming in to get treatment. That's with the aging baby boomers. The younger guys, however, are coming in for little things. They're coming in for hair removal or hair restoration. They don't want to get the temporal thinning that their fathers have. The younger guys are very embracing of this, but not the older guys. It has to be pretty specific. They're not really looking at dialing back the clock as much as just fixing their red nose or fixing their jawline or fixing that hair that's popping out of the side of their ear or something like that.
Pretty. Anything else? Anyone else? Yes?
Hi, I'm Kate from Nordstrom, and I'm just curious, what would be your 2 beauty products that you can't live without? And please don't say water and kale.
Who are you asking?
Who are you asking? What beauty products that I can't live without? That's lip balm, I would say, and a really good moisturizer that has sunblock in it.
I agree with I like lip balm, but I can't live without an antioxidant because I think that kind of serves a lot of functions at once. So whether it's a vitamin C, E, and or ferulic acid, that's nice. And then something containing a sunscreen. Those are the 2 things.
And I can't live without all of my beauty products, so I'm exempt. Anything else? No? All right. Thank you so much.
Good going. Good going. Thank you,
Thank you.
Linda.